let's try now. I hear you, Patricia. Can you speak again?
You can hear me?
Now I
can
can
you hear me now?
you. Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead. You can answer, for example, the number 6.
Number 6. Yeah. Yeah. With regard to water harvesting in Africa, I think there are very interesting experiences in the Sahel area in dry lands where farmers are using traditional technologies and practices to retain water and to improve soil water moisture. I'm talking about demi-lune or small water reservoirs that they use for livestock, and also infiltration pits. I think these are really very good practices and technologies that really make that experience have shown that makes a difference in the productivity of farming. Yeah. And also in East Africa, there was a very successful project in Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, where some water harvesting techniques were tested in hillside areas. And well, there is a publication that I can share with you where you can find these interesting experiences.
That would be great, Patricia. Maybe you can add in the link in the end or now on the chat box on the left-hand side. For Vinay, I would like to ask the question from Michelle Nguyen. A key consideration in climate change adaptation is differential impacts. How are differential impacts considered in supplementary irrigation or other irrigation approaches? As an explanation, there is not one farmer type, and it seems that irrigation often targets the most capable or the wealthiest. If you have comments on that, Vinay, handing over to you.
I agree, and then there are different farmers and different profitability, different land holdings, different influences on the water managers, and it's a difficult choice for them to make. And also some lands are marginal. Is it worth giving too much of water or attention or subsidy to such locations? Some crops are important for food security, and country wants farmers to grow, but others are more profitable. How do you stop them from growing? Some places water is free, so farmers are trying to grow very water thirsty crops, and it's not good idea, but what can you do? The policies are such that the water is too cheap or almost for free. Electricity is for free. I agree these barriers, these problems exist, and it's difficult to suggest one approach or one practice and expect all of them to follow. It's an ongoing debate, and I know it's a problem, but as an engineer, as an hydrologist, I see these problems all the time. I haven't found a solution to them yet, though.
That's good to know. Maybe there's an area for more research and collaboration with research organizations and sharing more good practices and good cases as well. So how about then the question number 8? Patricia, would you like to take first that one? So we have already had quite a intense discussion about maladaptation when planning the use of irrigation, and so just to how to avoid that, how to take use options, irrigation options that are not actually supporting the adaptive capacity and the resilience of the communities. So Patricia, you can unmute your microphone. Thanks.
Yeah, it's true that there are many examples of maladaptation, especially when it comes to irrigation. And I think that the way to reverse this situation is to ensure a good and sound assessment in the identification of adaptation option. That means to have a good risk screening, to have also good impact and vulnerability assessment, to identify the different categories of farmers, and to tailor adaptation measures that fit their needs, because we have assisted in many occasions to irrigation projects that really don't meet the needs of local populations or their capacities. It's also important to consider the cost and the economic analysis of the options, to have a good cost-benefit analysis. As it was mentioned, it's important to have an integrated assessment at watershed level, so we can consider different sectors, different users that can provide a broader set of adaptation possibilities. Participatory approaches are also very important to listen the different stakeholders, cross-sectoral collaboration, and well, in general, given the uncertainty of climate change, it's good also to avoid high regret options that can be, for instance, very, very expensive and that can harm the environment in the future. It is also important to prioritize more flexible measures that can be changed if the conditions varied. As I said, since the human pressure to water resources is more even pressing than climate change, it's good to choose options that will meet the current demands and also the future climate impacts. Thank you.
Many thanks, Patricia. Vinay, do you want to address that same one, or otherwise we can go to the concluding questions on building of irrigation, sustainable irrigation?
I cannot hear you now.
I think Patricia did a good job. Let's conclude. Let's move to the next one.
Oh.
Yes, okay, let's move to the 9th one. So I would hand over first to Vinay. What would be your key recommendation when building sustainable irrigation schemes, for example, in the community or regional level, taking into account the long-term climate change?
I have 2 points here. First is to look at the future demand for food, for climate change and population projections. Look at what natural resources do you have at hand, and then plan what is the best use of these to achieve food security. If you live in marginal areas with low productivity naturally, because the soils are such, the climate is such, there is little you can do to overcome these kind of barriers, except maybe build greenhouses or do hydroponics, which at present don't look sustainable at the large scale because of the economics involved. But the future irrigation schemes, I think, should consider multiple beneficiaries. They should plug the non-beneficial losses, such as through leaks, to evaporation, move to piped systems. Farmers should form water user associations so that they have ownership for the management, and they're careful about the water wastage, because it's their peers, it's their brothers, it's their colleagues, and it's their neighbors who are getting adversely affected by the bad choices they make on how to use this water in present and future scenarios. So that's what I see going forward as some interventions that should be thought of considering climate change.